Hello, hello, welcome back in a surprising turn of events to the final section of Swim, Why We Love the Water by Lynn Scher. Thanks for being here. I thought we had another section to come after this one, but it turns out there's lots of notes and references in the back, so this is going to be the final one. So thanks for joining me for it. By the way, I'm Julie. I read books over here if you're new. And this is the last section of this book, but we will be starting a new one. And since I wasn't fully prepared, I'm between two books, so perhaps you in the comments can tell me which one you prefer. So between, drumroll, I've got The Perfect Nanny by Leila, how do you say that? Slimani, The Perfect Nanny, okay. And then I've got Pure Color by Sheila Heti. So those are my options, hold them better, for the next read. So let me know in the comments maybe what you prefer, but it's gonna be a fiction because this one is nonfiction. And let's jump into it. The last, I believe it's the last chapter, The Art of Swimming, chapter 9 on page 163. Halfway across, I start to sing, not aloud, not to freak out the fish or spook another swimmer or leak water into my lungs, just to myself, a jolt from the jukebox playing in my head. The music sinks my stroke. The words press me forward. You gotta swim, and swim when it hurts. The whole world is watching. You haven't come this far to fall off the earth. The song is called Swim. Yeah, you've gotta swim. Don't let yourself sink. Just find the horizon. I promise it's not as far as you think. I'm so drawn to the message, so haunted by the melody, I've adopted it as my anthem for this journey. And the backstory is every bit as heroic as what happened here in the Hellespont. Andrew McMahon, the talented young composer / pianist who fronts the band Jack's Mannequin, wrote it after a terrifying year and a half undergoing treatment for leukemia. He'd been diagnosed at age 22 while he was on tour. My doctor said it was a 50-50 shot, Andrew tells me. It was a brutal experience, with some pretty dark moments. When he came out the other side, he was physically healed, but emotionally despairing, his self-confidence drained. One night, he came across the word swim and scrawled it on a piece of paper on his bedside table. The next day, he sat down and wrote, very fast, a one-sitting song, he recalls. The word swim is so powerful, and it just sort of unfolded itself. You've got to swim, you've got to swim. The song was an instant hit, with references to greedy politicians and lost love broadening the appeal during turbulent times. There was an air of things ready to fall apart, Andrew says. I felt it wasn't just me that was struggling. It wasn't just a song about myself. I tried to connect it back to the people around me. Maybe I wanted to feel that I wasn't alone. Swim broke Andrew's writer's block and became a fixture at every concert where thousands have come up afterwards to show him the lyrics, his lyrics, tattooed on their ankles and shoulders and chests. Swim for the music. Just keep your head above. Swim. Right here, right there in black ink, I see a few myself at a twilight performance in New York's Central Park as the mostly 20-something audience sings along with him, their sunglasses propped on their heads, their voices rising and falling with the rolling waves of melody. It's the most inspirational song I know, says Jenny, 25, who has cerebral palsy and uses a wheelchair. I always sing it when I'm having a bad day. I ask if she swims. Yes, she says, beaming. I can walk in the shallow end of the pool. Andrew also loves to swim, especially in the surf of Southern California that is now his home. Being inside a massive body of water hammers home how infinitely unimportant each of us is as individuals, and how much more important each of us is in connection to the whole, he says. That connection is what drives him. At a healthy 29 now, a sunny, spirited blonde with a radiant grin who looks as if he were born in blue jeans, he is delighted with the reaction to swim. It's become a letter to people in hard times, he muses. I didn't want to write this and have it be a cancer song. I want it to be a human song, about struggle in general and finding the hope inside. Luckily, I feel that that's what my fans have taken from it. I'm also a veteran of the cancer wars, and I know something about struggle. Swim is definitely a human song, which is why it is carrying me across the Hellespont. There's a picture of a tattoo with someone on their foot has written swim. Middle of page 165. In the hands of an artist, the world of swimming, already magical, becomes monumental. Pools transcend gunite under the brush of David Hockney. The rhythms of the Rhine shimmer in Wagner's prelude to Das Rheingold, a series of undulating notes that paint the flow so distinctly a blind person could see the water. And smart coaches of both swimming and life would gladly trade their clapboards for the go-get-'em poetry of Walt Whitman. Long have you timidly waited holding a plank by the shore. Now I will you to be a bold swimmer, to jump off in the midst of the sea, rise again, nod to me, shout, and laughingly dash with your hair. This from a man who teased that his forte was floating. I was a first-rate aquatic loafer, Whitman, a strong swimmer, once remarked. Swimming is a perfect setting for romance, especially when it's tragic, even tragicomic. In Christopher Marlowe's lusty Elizabethan fantasy of Hero and Leander, when the naked Leander emerged from his solo swim, his cloak, you'll recall, still firmly tied to his head, the virgin hero screeched for fear and ran into the dark, a scenario worthy of Jerry Seinfeld, although there is no known Renaissance equivalent to shrinkage. Marlowe explains Hero's girlish panic with patronizing care. Such sights as this to tender maids are rare. 2 centuries later, Lord Byron included Leander in his self-referential Don Juan, while describing the Don's own aquatic abilities. A better swimmer you could scarce see ever. He could perhaps have passed the Hellespont, as once a feat on which ourselves we prided, Leander, Mr. Eckenhead, and I did. The story has long captured readers' imaginations, including that of a young British pauper named Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Sometime around 1886, while walking down London Strand, he windmilled his arms as if swimming and accidentally came in contact with a gentleman's waistcoat. When the man seized the lad and accused him of trying to pick his pocket, the terrified youngster explained that he'd been daydreaming, imagining himself Leander swimming across the Hellespont. The gentleman was so taken with his intelligence, he paid his entrance fees to the library, allowing Coleridge to indulge his love of reading, according to his biographer. It was his ticket to education, and Coleridge ultimately helped create the Romantic movement. Thus was created the world's first swimming scholarship, enabled by the artful tale of Hero and Leander. They have also inspired a sequence of oil paintings by Cy Twombly, who used waves of brushstrokes, according to the Tate Modern, which cascade across the canvases. Symphonies and ballads have mourned them through the ages, and a modern artist, Adam Gettle, sings an emotional Hero and Leander that soars and sighs with the spray. All right, on page 167, C notes. When England's King George III took to the sea at Weymouth, a flock of fiddlers concealed in a nearby bathing machine struck up God Save the King to invigorate his royal plunge. Such are the privileges of majesty. Gertrude Ederle crossed the channel to the amplified sounds of Let Me Call You Sweetheart, spun from a wax disc on a portable phonograph in the trailing tugboat. She sometimes hummed along. The rest of us rock only to the orchestras in our heads. While waterproof music boxes definitely ease the boredom of long-distance pool laps, serious training like swimming in open water demands all the senses. So most swimmers sing from memory, an eclectic catalog of songs to quicken the limbs and focus the brain. Lynn Cox, has maneuvered through water that's icy enough to chill our drinks. She sings 100 bottles of beer in the wall by counting up to 1,000 bottles, then back down again. Another 1,000 times. She's sung a lot of beer. Mabel Tidings, channel swimming protagonist of Tina Howe's play Pride Crossings, sings nursery rhymes slowly. Mostly. Row, row, row your boat, the farmer in the dell. I sing each one 200 times and then move on to another. When a friend says she'd go mad, Mabel responds, "It's relaxing, actually." Diana Nyad sings the Beverly Hillbillies theme song endlessly. It's 2 stanzas and it keeps me occupied. She tells me, "You need a beat, not Imagine or Katie Lang singing Hallelujah. You can't swim to that." I'll do Neil Young's The Damage Done, not the whole song, just the chorus. If I sing those 2 verses 2,000 times, that would be exactly 4 hours, 45 minutes. Same with the Beverly Hillbillies. The Neil Young is better at night because it's quiet and has that falsetto voice. Alan Morrison, who is training for the channel, sings 10 songs, 1 for each lap, or the laps in his head. One by U2, lap 1, to So Happy Together by the Turtles, lap 2, all the way to A Misericordia from Vivaldi's Magnificat. No doubt a reflection on the condition of his body by the 1,000 or so multiple of lap 10. Michael Phelps sings the last song I heard when I got out of my car. Anything to keep me from thinking about looking at the black line for countless hours every day. Top of 168. The combination of sex and the sea has always been irresistible to songwriters, and nowhere does it resonate more merrily than in popular music that accompanied Americans' giddy discovery of the seashore at the turn of the 20th century. From the 1890s through the 1920s, song after song turned Moon June Spoon into Peach Beach Teach, a simple formula that required only a sunny day, a handsome lifeguard, and a pretty girl who wanted to learn how to swim. "Paul, won't you teach me the crawl?" sings one little lass with plenty of class, her suit just a trifle too small. By the end of the second verse, they get married and the baby's now learning to crawl. Art speeds up everything. Every now and then the tables turn and it's the girl, not the guy, who can swim. When Jimmy O'Donnell takes Nellie O'Connell down to the beach one day, it's Nell who took to the water just like Neptune's daughter. Jim couldn't swim a stroke. As you might imagine, the swimmer Nell takes up with is someone Jim wanted to choke. Nell, however, has room in her heart. She urges, "Hurry up, Jim," and the chorus of splash, splash, splash suggests that he has a chance. Another seriously radical woman is Betsy, the belle of the bathers. Swimming's considered her forte. The women are jealous, especially the fat ones, I'm quoting here. For all of them men shun and pay no attention whenever fair Betsy is near. Not surprisingly, no one lives happily ever after in this song. In this tittering milieu of double entendres and daring courtship, the rhymes give the clues. The occupant of the bathing suit is usually a beaut, and what she needs to know about water is that no one oughter tell her mother what's going on. Mothers are key in beach parlor music. "Don't go in the water, daughter," urges one song. "A girl's a sight and looks a fright the moment she gets wet." No chance for romance there. "Don't take your beau to the seashore," commands another, this one by Irving Berlin, rhyming the role of a petticoat to conceal with the reality of a bathing suit to reveal. Bad news for imperfect bodies. Uh-oh. Reality is never more brutal than in The Handsome Brave Lifesaver, in which Miss Liza, who raved about the wave and every Sunday went to bathe, never doubted that if she swam too far, the, handsome brave lifesaver would bring her in. Except that one day she strayed beyond where she could wade. She grew afraid, called him to her aid. In fact, cried for help 3 times or more, but he was busy on the shore. Turns out his wife was standing near. That's why he couldn't hear. Sometimes life sucks, even at the beach. We've got some record posters or covers from some of those songs, The Handsome Brave Lifesaver, etc. Funny. 170. My favorite sheet music of the time is less callous, more suggestive, and far more generous to the sensibilities of both the big guy and the cute, in her bathing suit, gal. The loving couple would meet every summer at the beach and, well, let's let the lyrics tell it. And she'd say to him, "Come on, let's go in." So he'd take her by the hand, then they'd, chorus, swim for a while out in the ocean, then down they would go, way down below. Nobody knew what they went down there to do, but they'd come up laughing in a minute or two. Then they'd swim for a while out in the ocean and down to the bottom once more. When the water got rough, she'd holler, "John, that's enough." Then they had to swim back to the shore. Every single minute of the day, they're either swimming or loving away. They ride the donkeys, shoot the chutes. They don't care what happens to their bathing suits. You get the idea. Even swimming has its scandals. In 1935, a more urbane composer produced an even more delectable song. Cole Porter, a suave regular at society's finest pools and lidos, collaborated with Moss Hart on the musical comedy Jubilee, a witty, although now dated spoof on an unnamed royal family that could only reside at Buckingham Palace. Bored with their regal lives, each goes off to satisfy a private fantasy in the common world. The Queen's dream is swimming. She arranges to meet the naked swimmer who went into the films, an actor named Mowgli, who is a biting caricature of the Olympian-turned-Tarzan Johnny Weissmuller. By the end of Act 1, the Queen is in the pool with Mowgli and his mermen, jubilantly proclaiming the value of her newfound activity. There's nothing like swimming for trimming the old physique, for giving the torso that certain chic. There's nothing that hustles the muscles and makes 'em totter than gaily doing your daily dozen with Neptune's daughter. The peppy melody and brilliant rhymes, Porter couples the Queen's regalia with a crawl from Australia, are beyond charming. Unfortunately, almost no one knows the song. It was dropped from the show before it opened on Broadway, and when Jubilee closed after only 169 performances, it was consigned to the archives. Today, a number of revivals have restored this lost gem to their productions, but There's Nothing Like Swimming has yet to find a slot on iTunes. Literature has always taken swimming more seriously, with a flood of established metaphors: the loneliness of the ocean, the flux of the current, the peace or finality of the deep. The sea is the womb, or our unconscious, or both. Pools make us happy, or vulnerable, or anxious. Swimming represents the possible and the impossible. It's an obsession that cracks the glass surface of life, a river that gets you to places you only imagined. Learning to swim is a parable of survival. Marathons conquer the challenge of distance. Water is holy, and swimming is a kind of communion, as Camus suggests in The Plague. Water makes you weird. As Alice learned in Wonderland, water demands risk, as F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, turning the imaginary onto his own craft. All good writing is swimming underwater and holding your breath. Roger Deacon, whose book Waterlog chronicles his year swimming the wild water of Britain, described diving in. You let yourself go, launch out, cross over some sort of boundary. Looking out at a black sheet of water is like contemplating a blank sheet of paper. But once you are in, you are in. Writers who swim know the secret handshake. Swimming is the apex of the day, its heart. wrote John Cheever, whose 1964 short story, The Swimmer, makes the activity he loved the core of a searing allegory. It begins as a perfect summer Sunday for Nettie Merrill, a Connecticut ex-urbanite with an athlete's body and a millionaire's estate. The day was beautiful, Cheever writes, and it seemed to him that a long swim might enlarge and celebrate its beauty. Nettie's course is unique, a string of swimming pools, that quasi-subterranean stream that curved across the country. He would name the stream Lucinda, after his wife. It is an enticing plan, to swim home via his neighbor's pools, a sapphire trail that only a real-life swimmer might have invented. But the Lucinda River weaves instead through raucous cocktail parties, old lovers, and older memories. A surreal journey taking Nettie through spiritual desolation to the abandoned wreck of his house. The last word of his story is empty, which perfectly describes Nettie's life, clarified finally through the act of swimming. My father loved pools, the writer Susan Cheever tells me over dinner one night, but he wouldn't build one. He liked swimming in other people's pools. He swam a very choppy crawl, never learned to breathe right. She uses the same word, choppy, that John Cheever uses to describe Nettie's stroke. And she goes on to decode the brilliance of the work. It was a novel first, she says, but he burned it. I am dumbfounded. Burned his own novel? How come? Creative genius, Susan explains definitively. Then he turned it into a short story. That's why it's so good. By winnowing it down, he gave it tremendous power. The director, Frank Perry, turned The Swimmer into an equally searing film, completed by director Sidney Pollack, for which actor Burt Lancaster had to learn to swim, an ironic indication of how far swimming had fallen out of favor by 1968. Hollywood's earliest swimming stars weren't just curvy actors who could swim. They were authentic aquanauts, whose movies were often about swimming itself. Annette Kellerman reinterpreted her vaudeville act for California's new industry and made a dozen silent movies from 1909 to 1924. Neptune's Daughter, Venus of the South Seas, Daughter of the Gods, to name a few. By today's standards, most were sappy underwater fantasies, heavy on fairy tale and exotic, sometimes outlandish mermaid costumes. It was even a tough sell then. What? A woman fish on the screen? Yelped one studio head, almost refusing the pitch. But the movies made money, lots of money, and Kellerman's fabulous physique and gutsy maneuvers, she swam all her own stunts, along with a shoal of personally trained mer chorus girls, kept the audience buying tickets. Sometimes she forgot the fishtail and the rest of the garb as well, a tribute to her perfect body that the studio was delighted to promote. You won't strain your eyes trying to follow the flitting forms of these darting divinities in the deep, promised one industry magazine. You get more than a flash, much more. This is the naked truth. In 1917, she was cited as an example when censors banned nudity in future films. In Kellerman's wake came a quartet of elite athletes who slid directly from the pool to show business. Eleanor Holm won gold in the backstroke at the 1932 Olympics, but was banned from the next games because she drank champagne aboard the ship taking her to Germany, a moment of Olympic prudery that made her turn professional. Her only movie was Tarzan's Revenge, 1938, in which she executes a snappy backstroke and an Olympian crawl to escape from a crocodile in the Jungle River. They had wired the jaws shut, so I wasn't bitten by it, she told a reporter, but it could swipe you with that big tail. I was scared to death. The rest of Holmes' career centered on giant public stages, most notably as one of the headliners of the famed Aquacade, produced by her second husband, Billy Rose, at the 1939 World's Fair. Her co-star there was another Olympian, the magnificently muscular Johnny Weissmuller. Born in Romania, raised mainly in Chicago, Weissmuller won 5 golds and 1 bronze in 2 Olympics, 1924 and 28, and set 67 world records, with such a wicked crawl that a coach once told him he fairly climbed out of the water. When Weissmuller retired at 25, he had never lost a race. He was handsome too, and he became the definitive, but not the first, Tarzan, swinging through 12 movies to the accompaniment of his signature yodel yell. Also swimming like a champ with his head out of the water, the better for the camera to catch him, in Tarzan and the Ape Man, 1932, and in the famously sexy underwater romp in the follow-up, Tarzan and His Mate. That's the swim scene you really want to see, although it's not clear whether co-star Maureen O'Sullivan or her double Olympian Josephine McKim is the nude swimmer. Yes, nude. 1934. So much for the censors. Weissmuller, however, keeps his loincloth on. The other famous swimming Tarzan was Buster Crabbe, who became even better known for his roles as Flash Gordon and Buck Rogers. He was a formidable real-life action figure at 2 Olympics, 1928 bronze and 1938 2 gold, after which he too swam in the aquacade opposite Eleanor Holm. Picture of Johnny Weissmuller, brilliant swimmer, charming Tarzan. Hopefully it'll focus. There was one more aquacade megastar, one more of these early crossover sports figures, a genuine celebrity, who could bring folks to the edge of the water and drop their jaws, could open a movie and keep the audience asking for more. For many of us in the 1950s, there was only one movie mermaid, only one Hollywood photo on our walls. Every girl I grew up with wanted to be Esther Williams. Actually, I wanted to be June Allison first, but then decided that waterproof hair and a sexy stroke were way more interesting than a smoky voice. You could run out of fingers counting the reasons Esther Williams remains a hero. Her teenage records in freestyle and breaststroke, her smashing performances in the San Francisco Aquacade with Weissmuller, a body that was built to fit a bathing suit, and a smile that tested every shade of Technicolor. Her smooth strokes and elegant dives looked so effortless, you believed you could do them too. But the reason I most adore Esther Williams is because she played the game and beat them at it. As she tells the story in her hilarious autobiography, The $1 Million Mermaid, she wasn't looking for a career in showbiz. She only wanted to swim and to win. Her first screen test at 20th Century Fox confirmed it. The casting director told her, "You're a swimmer, right? Well, get back into the pool." And so she did. When World War II canceled America's participation in the 1940 Olympics, Williams turned pro, but figured the aquacade was all the showbiz she could handle. MGM had another idea. The popularity of a new movie sensation at 20th Century Fox, ice skater Sonia Heni, and a series of films in which she glided across the frost to music, sparked the copycat instinct at MGM. They tried Williams again because the head of the studio, Louis B. Mayer, had issued a dictum: melt the ice, get a swimmer, make it pretty. And that's how Esther Williams became our hero. Because Hollywood needed a new gimmick to outsell a proven gimmick, and because she did it with style and skill and always that smile. Despite being pushed around by little guys with big libidos, Williams, 5'8", often wearing 3-inch heels, helped invent a new Hollywood genre, the swimming extravaganza, a musical comedy with an elaborate multi-mermaid swimathon choreographed by Busby Berkeley to showcase her talents and to be geometrically stunning from every single angle. Picked up where Annette Kellerman had left off, Esther Williams also turned synchronized swimming into a popular art form, ultimately helping to make it an official Olympic sport. She swam on screen with everyone from Mickey Rooney, Andy Hardy's double wife, to Cat and Mouse Team Tom and Jerry, dangerous when wet. She made the frothy escapism of Neptune's daughter and bathing beauty as mouth-watering as popcorn. And she was the natural choice to play the lead in Kellerman's life story, Million Dollar Mermaid, in 1952. What she later told an interviewer about her predecessor defines her own life as well. She knew there was more to being a woman than being kept in corsets. Williams said of Kellerman, "She wasn't content to float. She was determined to swim. What she did was to persuade women to get in the water. I'm a continuum of that." In 1993, when Asphalt Green, a gigantic new swimming facility, opened in Manhattan, the ceremony included a tribute to Esther Williams. Jane Katz performed the synchro to honor the star and spoke with her just before the show. Williams' advice is her legacy. "Swim pretty," she said. That's life imitating art. Got a picture of Esther Williams as Annette Kellerman in Million Dollar Mermaid. She's like doing acrobatics, trapeze, and they've got lots of men doing a synchronized thing around her, it looks like. And to finish out chapter 9, we've got a little page, Wet Flicks. For first every Esther Williams movie, then every Tarzan next. Sunset Boulevard, 1950. The poor dope. He always wanted a pool. Well, in the end, he got himself a pool, only the price turned out to be a little high. The Graduate, 1967. Just one word. Yes, sir. Plastics. 2 more. Swimming pool. The Swimmer, 1968. The iconic swimming movie. Joan Rivers has a cameo. The Swimming Pool, La Piscine. 1969, a gorgeous pool and a murder. The Abyss, 1989. Voluntary hypothermia saves the heroine. It's possible. Est Ouest, 1999. Cold War, cold water, escape from post-war Soviet Union. Keep swimming, he's told. It's your only chance. Watermarks, 2004. Even Hitler couldn't extinguish the swimming spirit. On a Clear Day, 2005. How mad would you have to be to swim this? Totally. Swimming Upstream, 2005. In Australia, where I grew up, summers were long and hot. Water changed that. It kept you alive and safe, at least for a while. Pride, 2007. Brothers don't swim until the coach gets hold of them. Men Who Swim, 2010. Swedish all-male synchro team finds the meaning of midlife in the swimming pool. And that's the end of chapter 9. I was wrong. There is a chapter 10, but still this final section. On page 179, chapter 10, Swim. Suddenly, I'm close. The marker boat has moved unannounced, the red balloons deflated. So much for trust. But as I turn south, the current shifts as predicted. I can't say I found my engine, but I'm definitely on the home stretch. Stay left, warns Fiona, my friendly peripatetic coach, yelling through a megaphone as her boat steers me from the swifter current that might take me somewhere else. I've been swimming more than an hour, and the deadline is closing in, but so is the finish line. I can see the ramp, the pier, the walls of the ancient castle lining the shore. Just keep swimming, I tell myself, channeling Dory. Swim, Andrew sings, and I listen. The last 100 yards are fierce. I'm fighting a strong current that makes the trees on the shore stand still. I pull hard from a safe deposit box of strength I didn't know I had left, my reserves kicking in. You made it, Lynn, you made it, shouts Fiona, cheering me into the dock. And then I do. Quietly, finally, I'm there. Confirmation comes seconds later when I leap out of the water. It's not how you swim, it's how you finish, another swimmer has told me, and cross the red carpet. Not a celebrity photo corral, but a computerized timer that reads the chip around my ankle to certify my time. Ding! I did it! Waded into the water in Europe and walked out in Asia. crossed the Hellespont in time, and emerged on Earth on my own 2 feet. I flip off my goggles, shake out my wet hair, take the towel I am handed, and join my competitors who are milling around and celebrating their own swims. A friend grabs my arm. "Lynn, look up." The leaderboard, a giant electronic scorecard flashing the results for every category, reads, "Number 1, Lynn Share, USA, 1 hour, 24 minutes, 16 seconds. I have, improbably, won my age group." I start to smile, then catch myself being competitive. Will it hold? I burst into laughter. Of course it will. I am, it turns out, the only woman in my age group. There are more ancient categories, but I've got mine covered. I wish I could tell you that I humbly accepted my accomplishment and moved on to other things. That as the sun slid from Asia to Europe, I turned into a grown-up and left my swim behind me. No way. I grin like a schoolgirl as we high-five each other and mentally re-swim the course. Did you feel the engine? Which route did you take? Did you ever see the red balloons? And when I mount the little podium during the late afternoon award ceremony, I am every inch an Olympian. Arms up, victory smile, duck my head graciously for the ribbon with the medal. A medal? Byron only caught a cold for his efforts. I wear it to the celebratory dinner that night, a grand joke approved by the very generous crowd. The next day at breakfast, I finally put it aside. "Morning, champ," says a British firefighter who outswam me by half an hour. "Where's the medal?" He, like all my new pals, all of whom finished the race, agrees that I don't have to explain to anyone back home that my medal was not completely competitive. Look, I know that 400-some people swam faster than I did, and that even at age 14, I couldn't have kept up with the Turkish teen who won the whole thing in 42 slippery minutes, half my time. And I know that Leander swam it both ways at night, straight across the current. But as Byron told a friend about his own one-way journey, nothing is impossible in love or religion. If I had had a hero on the other side, perhaps I should have worked harder. Me too. In fact, I swam 4 miles, a personal record. I beat more than a few people. The training, the tips, the hard work all paid off. As my official t-shirt says, Leander, Lord Byron, and me. Try prying that off my back. Months after the event, I still turn to the map, my eyes darting straight to the straight, as I say to myself over and over, I started there and ended there, swam from Europe to Asia, I swam the Hellespont. I can still feel the glow, still feel the pride, still feel embraced by the blend of turquoise Aegean with deep black sea buoying me as I glided across. We did it together, the water and I. It held me up. I pushed myself through. We were partners. Always are, because you can't do it alone. This, then, is why I swim. Success! So cute. Page 182. It's the best swim I ever had, agrees Claire Rook, a robust 44-year-old physics professor from London who convinced her 2 younger brothers to join her, creating the only brother-sister combo in the Hellespont, and came in 4th in her age group at a breakneck 54 minutes, even taking time to smell the roses. I knew it was a race, but I stopped in the middle, took off my goggles, and said to myself, there's Europe, there's Asia, and here's me, and I'm in the middle of it. Claire swims for peace of mind. It cocoons me. She says, no sound, no one can find me. It's a mind game. Several weeks later, she emails to announce that she's rejoined a local swim club to train every week. Swimming for me has always been more than keeping fit, she writes. I love the sense of freedom in the open water and the calmness of the rhythm of my strokes and breathing. The feeling of full submersion is just wonderful and a perfect tonic to the stresses of a busy life. Lisa Crawford, who signed up for the swim just hoping to finish and wound up around the middle of the pack, is ecstatic. The race was her way to forget turning 40. Yuck. I decided I need a personal challenge to mark this less than groovy milestone, she tells me beforehand. Swimming is the simplicity of following that little blue line. Boring for some, but I have a son with autism who is quite challenging, so it's a great way to switch off and not be bothered by anything or anyone. Training for this race has been great. To do something just for me. Lisa, a stay-at-home mom, used to be a solicitor in London. Swimming in the sea really felt serene. She says, I expect that was a lot to do with the calm seas and sunshine, but also in swimming in the same direction as all the other swimmers who were there trying to achieve their goal. We were alone, but also together for an hour or so, which was a lovely feeling. And although it was a race, it didn't feel that way to me. I even stopped to talk to one or two people in the middle of the strait, mainly to try to ascertain the whereabouts of the promised red balloon, and that was quite amusing and slightly surreal. Everyone exults. Joe Nasser from Jackson, Mississippi is grinning broadly, still wearing his cap and goggles 10 minutes after crossing the line because I'm a little too sore to take them off. He swam with his business partner because the wind and the water kicked my tail last year and I didn't finish. This time it was great. A father and son from Edinburgh finished together. If you do it, I'll do it, they agreed. David Morris from Alexandria, Virginia draws, I'd roll over, look at the mountain, and think, good Gertie, I'm not even halfway across. And then I looked over and I thought, oh my goodness, it's there. And instead of trying to beat my time, I just enjoyed the moment. I just swam the Hellespont. Doggone. Joel Strait McClure, an adventurer from San Francisco who's trekking the Mediterranean, called his bronze medal a walk in the park. I think I compensated too much, went too far to Istanbul, north, before I cut over to Greece, south. But what the hell, I mean, it's a 5,000-mile journey, a couple of kilometers here and there don't matter. Kate Bischoff, the fish from Perth, streaked across in 47:07, the second non-Turkish woman over the line, first in her age group. I couldn't figure out where to turn, she confesses. It wasn't where they showed us. No whooshing current to take me down there. Never felt the engine. But there must have been something helping me, even if I couldn't detect it. I'd never have done it in under an hour. Another Aussie, Irene Keel, has come from Brisbane, where she runs her own accounting and auditing firm. At 70, a gray-haired dynamo, she has won her age group. Like me, she was the only woman in it. She laughingly acknowledges the benefits of growing older and tells me that she took up swimming when she was 50 because of a bad back. When I started, I couldn't swim 50 meters, she says. Now she's winning races around the world. Is swimming an escape, I ask? Yes, it's a way to chill out for a while, she says, beaming. All you do is concentrate on your swimming or you drown. The next day, the sea looks even more glorious. A deep, rich Mediterranean blue that underscores our accomplishment like a gigantic magic marker. It's geography. Bernie Stone, the continent bridger, has told me. It's tangible. These are the geographical splits of the world. We all know it used to be one. We're just swimming across the folds. And across history. I've paid tribute to Leander and his hero, visited the nearby ruins of Troy, where the windy plains described by Homer still evoke the grand sweep of antiquity. And like all the participants in this international race, I realize that the same activity that has expanded my personal universe has also made the world smaller. As the organizers said at the awards ceremony, once upon a time we had battles on this landscape. Now we share friendship through swimming. Wow. after the page break on page 184. I started this book as a swimmer with a passion. I end it understanding more about why. Yes, we were once fish, but it's not natural, it's not primordial, we were not born to swim. Yes, we become buoyant, but it's not easy and it's certainly not convenient. We've updated the strokes and we cheer on our Olympians, but it's not new and it's not really mainstream. It demands concentration and you are always counting in the water. But it also allows the suspension of time, the flights of fancy, and the colors, so many variations on the shade of blue. Poet Wallace Stevens called it the basic slate, the universal hue. Swimming, unlike most addictions, is actually good for us, perhaps even better than we thought. And the more we swim, the bigger the benefits. A year ago, I stretched out lazy laps for 30 minutes at a time, generally in warm weather in pools by myself, on autopilot. Now I race through an hour or more at the crack of dawn indoors when it's cold, or in the ocean when it's more agreeable, often with other people, and I focus on my stroke. I'll never be a racer. Can't come near the perfection of the elites. Unlike them, I have a land life. I play tennis, but my freestyle is faster and sleeker, my breathing less strained. My shoulders are broader and the new muscles sometimes cry out for attention, but it's still the best full body massage available. Olympian Donna de Verona, now 64, swam immediately after a recent hip operation and still swims several times a week. When I ask how long she'll continue, she shoots back, laughing, "As long as I can keep climbing out of the pool." Water heals. If I go in like a cranky sea lion, I come out like a smiling dolphin, said California endurance swimmer Carol Singh in 1999 after she became the then oldest woman at 57 to swim the English Channel. That was 2 years after she became the oldest woman to cross California's Catalina Channel. The image is still valid, she tells me. I'm still swimming and still loving it. I don't think I'm as cranky as I used to be, but it's still great therapy and makes me happy and mellow. It's the world's cheapest antidepressant, the second best way I know to fall asleep, or maybe the first. The French poet Paul Valéry wrote of swimming as his love, the sea as his lover. In it, I am the man I want to be. The intimacy was less narcissistic for Gertrude Ederle. To me, the sea is like a person, like a child that I've known a long time, she said 30 years after her channel swim. It sounds crazy, I know, but when I swim in the sea, I talk to it. I never feel alone when I'm out there. Our last little aside story on 186, an actual bear. Katmai Peninsula on the southwest coast of Alaska is the salmon-catching capital of the country for both humans and bears. Two-legged fishermen migrate here every summer for their fill of fish. Brown bears wait all year for the 2-week period when the salmon are spawning, then position themselves on the perilous waterfalls and swoop up breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the year to come. It is a glorious sight, and yet another example of the glory of the water. Many years ago at Katmai on vacation, my husband looked out the window of the communal dining hall and motioned me over. "Look," he said, pointing at the rocky beach no more than 50 yards away. A bear had come down from the woods and was lumbering toward the shore of Naknek Lake, giving some of us a momentary fright. We needn't have wasted the adrenaline. Paying us no mind, the giant creature walked straight into the water, deftly maneuvering through the waves until he was about 20 yards out. And then, as we watched in awe, he proceeded to body surf like a champ, riding the waves in and swimming back out, ducking into the water and rising to clear his head. At one point, he flipped onto his back, looking more like a hairy guy in a bathtub than a killer creature. His dip lasted at least 20 minutes, with all of us visitors watching slack-jawed. Then the bear swam in, shook off, and returned to the forest. He knew something, that fellow, about the joy of swimming. So, what's next after you've swum the Hellespont? Or the channel, or the island, or your laps, or just from one end to the other? Annette Kellerman, who died in 1975 at 88, never stopped dreaming. This love of the unknown is the greatest of all the joys which swimming has for me, she wrote. Though my swimming has earned me a goodly fortune, I'm still looking for my chest of gold in a cool, dripping sea cave. Though a professional mermaid for the movies, I still wait to see my first real one sitting on a damp gray rock, combing her long green hair. Americans today have a more practical wish list. When a recent poll asked which sport they'd like to participate in, every age group listed swimming for fitness either first or second. That's telling. People want to swim. And judging by the increase in enrollment at U.S. Masters Swimming, they also want to swim better. You can always get faster, but there will always be someone faster than you. Slower, too. Swimming doesn't have to be about winning. An early admirer called Leander's swim the crack performance of antiquity, Byron's his ultra achievement. I like to think other adventures still await me, because there's always another ocean, another pool, another wave, another continental divide, and another generation. Last summer, my 4-year-old grandson Tyler continued to progress through swimmies and floaties and the usual childish flailing at the pool, often watching me as I did my daily laps. I had no idea how closely. Months later, during his evening bath, goggles on of course, he announced to his mom, "I want to swim like Lynn," and proceeded to flap his arms in 9 inches of water. The next day at his regular swim lesson, he flabbergasted the teacher and my daughter-in-law by jumping into the pool and exacting a brief but perfectly acceptable freestyle, the first of his tiny life. The smile on his face could have melted the Arctic. The one on mine is still there. This, too, is why I swim. And that is the end of chapter 10 and the end of Swim, Why We Love the Water by Lynn Sher. I will take just a minute or two to show you some of these pictures. Especially those of her race at the Hellespont. I think I'm just going to show you those. So here's a picture of the Hellespont looking from the north to the Asian side, and then on the bottom, how Leander might have seen the Hellespont during his nightly swims. Let's see if we can focus. It's very expansive, very big. The other was a antique map of the Hellespont. All right, waiting for the gun on race day, and we're off. So many of them. And then there's them in the water. Let's see what the bottom photo is. That's the course from Google Maps, I suppose. That's me early in the race. The finish line is far off to the right. So they've got pictures of them in action. Number 1 and only, swimming to the finish line. Have I shown you my medal? There she is finishing. She got her medal, and she was number 1 in her age group. Hey, even if you're the only one, that's awesome. So, thanks for joining me for this book, and I will catch you next time for either The Perfect Nanny or Pure Color. Let me know in the comments what you think. I'll see you then. Bye.